Hello guys and welcome to another tutorial. In this case we are going to learn how to make a really great hair and grooming simulation. Everything you need to know about hair you will be learning here in about 20 minutes. So stay tuned and watch the full tutorial. Guys, do you want to join a really nice server? We have tons of different channels. We have effects, modeling, loop dev, compositing. We will have resources for every type of discipline. So, hop in and have fun. I also have a Patreon page where you can support me. I have every single file, I have polls, I have even some tools, guidance. So if you are interested, you may have a look. Thank you. Hi guys, so I wanted to show you before we started how this is going to end up looking. Look how lovely this looks and how much control we end up having our final layout. Look at this. This is amazing, the amount of control we can have over each and individual geometry or each individual hair part. Look how realistic this looks. Okay guys, so here we are in the scene. This is our subject. As you can see, it has some really nice hair. At the moment it's really thin, but it's for render purposes. So how do we begin with this task? Because it's usually very hard for beginners. So first of all, we need to import our guy. I will show you step by step how to do it. First of all, you need to have an FBX character. I use Mixamo. If you don't know what Mixamo is, it is a place where you can download any type of character with any type of animation. So this makes our jobs very easy. So there is a node called FBX character import. Let me show you with ease what this does. So basically what you do is to import your FBX file. Your FBX animation file, in this case, is the same as the character because they are both mixed together. And the clip name. The clip name will be basically a tag. In this case, the mixamo.com. Secondly, I then do a rig post. Why did I do a rig post? Because this character has a laughter, as you can see, and it kind of penetrates the neck with the chest. Look what happens when I don't do this. So the rig post allows me to basically have the control to move any joint as I want. So have a look. I can do whatever I want with the animation. It's only going to be represented as a animation layer. Then I'm going to split something. In this case, I chose this head, this front shape. All I did was to select the head, double click, select, and then do split, and I split it, and then I polyfilled it. As you can see on the next step, which is the animation. This is not animation, this is the character. You can have a look. This is the one standing up, and this is the animation. I did the same process. So now I have both. I have the head on a T-pose and the head animated with the same polyfill. Now that we have the head static and the head animation, we're going to import our head static here because we want to have more control over how it's going to look. So far, these are not so many polygons in my opinion, so I subdivide it, and in order to remain or to keep this rounded shape, I did a remesh. The remesh is to have a more uniform distribution of polygons. As you can see, this is not uniform, but this it is. You always want to have a nice canvas where to draw your guides. And as you can see, we have like a little modification, a little gap here between what we had before and what we have now. This is what we had, and this is what we have now. We have a gap. So what I did is to ray them a little bit. You can see I ray them both guys together. This basically moves our geometry a little bit towards the original geometry. Then you blur it just a tiny bit so we can have a little bit more rounder edges, but still having a less of a gap than we used to have before. As you can see, we have a lesser gap. And then this is one of the most important steps is that we need, if you press enter here, we need to see our places or our masks where we are going to have hair. We can have more than one attribute here. Look, we have a brush and we have a symmetry enabled and we have these guys together. For example, if I want to paint more here, I paint. This is on symmetry. We can always enable this, so we don't have it. It doesn't matter. You will have the grooming you want to have. And if we, for example, want to go to another mask, for example, this one, we can just go. Remember, to enable this option, you need to go here into attributes and do click on this symbol to make a new mask. Once you make it, it's going to appear here. You can paint whatever you want. These are where the guides are going to be. This is the hair at the top and this is the hair at the bottom. One rule I use to grooming is to always have more masks. Each mask is going to represent, like, for example, a length in the guides. And this is going to be our skin. This is the non-animated skin. So what I did to move this is to go to the blur before the attribute paint and grab our head static and our head animation. Remember these two guys, and then do a point deform of our animation. This doesn't need to have the paint because we're going to have it here. So we're going to just animate this guy with the static and this static. As you can see, it's basically perfect. We don't need the mouth to be perfect or the neck to be perfect. All we'll need is the head to more or less match the scalp. Now that we have this, we need to have a way in order to have the first frame being the T-pose, because we cannot start a Vellum simulation or animation if you don't have the original place of origin. This is going to look bad, so we need to blend within the T-pose to the first frame of the animation. So what I did is to do a blend shape. In this case, I'm going to do the blend shape from frame -50 to frame 1. So this is what's going to happen. Now it starts the simulation. Okay? This is a very clever and a useful way to have a skin animation and not caring about if it's on T-pose or not, because we're going to blend within each other. Secondly, in order for us to have all we need for our groom, we need to have the skin BDB animation and skin BDB static. In this case, it's just going to be our animation on a BDB with these values, and that's how it is. This is the animation. It's going to work for our collisions, it's going to work for our grooming, etc. And this also, because we're going to be able, with my setup, to basically simulate either on T-pose or either on animation. You will see this is actually very easy to generate, at least the first grooming stage. So let's grab our out skin. This is our out skin, which is not the animation, as you can see. And let's do a hair generator. In the hair generator, we're going to use what mask we painted. It's going to be the side hair. The side hair is going to be represented with some density. I chose this value, and the unguided are going to have this length. So what happens when I remove this? When I remove this, I have hair everywhere. Of course I don't, and I want to have only hair where I have to have a hair, right? So secondly, we are going to grab our out skin, because we need to have the skin in order to update our guides. Because the way this works, let me show you guys, is that each of these primitive guides, because these at the end of the day are just a line, are basically merged to a polygon. For example, this line, if we go into our skin, is set or is applied into this primitive. If we look, the primitive is the 17,322. And these guys also have a skin prim UV. The skin prim UV works like this, guys. Let's say we have a guide which goes that way. So it's going to choose, it's going to analyze like the same way a UV does where this guide is, because it could also be here. How do I determine where it is? Where you create some sort of UVs going here and going here. So with these coordinates, our guide is going to be found inside this primitive. So we can have every data we need in order, for example, if we have these two guides, to interpolate between each other. That's about it. Secondly, we need to have our BDB. Some of these nodes work with a BDB. And I want to create the first initial shape with our character. So what can I do with this? So let's grab our skin and let's draw a curve on top of it. You can see this looks interesting. If we are visualizing this with this width, it's because basically I went here and I did shaded open curves. If I disable this, we will see that we have the original curves. You can work as whatever you want. It's actually the same. This works as a curve, as you can see. So I drew some curves here, same as this. I'm going to go with a new curve and delete everything here just so you can see. And let's do some volume advect by curves. I did the follow curve. I have this surface lift and this radius multiplier with this voxel size. This works perfectly in my case. So far nothing is going on, but have a look when I start to create a guide and move it along the shape of the character. You will see it's going to follow perfectly our guides. And of course we can increase this so it's more going away from the hair, or we can decrease this so it's more inside the hair, the head. So this works perfectly and it's great for our first and initial shape. We of course want to have this blend just in case we need to do some minor modifications. I'm going to stay with our first draw curves and we can have a guide groom. All I did with the guide groom is to have some tiny bit of lift, nothing else. Secondly, I group this because this is going to be the side, this is going to be my side hair. This is on primitives and I said out guide side hair and out skin side hair because this is the skin, just in case we ever need this skin again. And this is the out BDB bottom hair. This should be actually side hair. Remember, this is the same as just having the BDB, which is this one. It's the same, but I want to always have everything nulled out. In reality, we're just going to be using this one, but I want to have everything just in case. Before continuing, I want to show you something, which is basically having this head as a visualizer. In this case, we have the skin animation, and this is linked to something. This something is, if we go here, this null. As you can see, it has this out static. Why is this so? Because I edited the parameter and I had a toggle sent here and I just name it as I wanted. In this case, static. So what I did is to copy the parameter, go here into the head. I grab my out skin anime, my out skin. This is the first steps we made. And I merged it with a switch and then I click on this paste relative reference. So whenever I go here and I say, hey, I want to work with the static, I will be able to see if, for example, I allow this to our static skin. So we can work with the hair, having this visualizer, not interfering with our hair, and we can have the skin move anywhere we want. As you can see, let's move here and let's disable all this geometry, which I don't want to have. That's how it is. If we are here, we can move from statics to animation, right? This is only to visualize and make our lives easier. Well, our next step here, I'm going to work with the static now, is to do our top hair. This looks very funny, I know. These are the settings. It's more or less the same. This is the skin, and I basically did the same trick again. I shaped the guides like so, because this is what I wanted, and I advected it. As you can see, we have a really, really great initial shape, which of course we can move as we want. Look at this. This is literally amazing. This is amazing. This is one of the best tricks I learned with grooming. When you go into the blend, I did chose something, but basically the blend is doing the same thing as this is doing. It also adds some attributes, as you can see here, which I wanted both to have, just in case. For example, the cure mask, which is not here. And then I did some guide groom right here. This is not doing much. It's only adding some. It's only adding the width, as you can see. And then I grouped the top, and I did basically the same thing as I did on the left. So if we merge this guy and this guy, we are going to have this combination. You see there's no error. This is because we have the same set of nodes, but if we disable this, we're going to have an error. This error means, hey, you are missing these two guys. So I don't like these errors, which of course they are not needed, but I prefer to just have everything the same, even if I'm not using them. So this is only the static. This is only basically a visualization of our static hair. So if we continue, we need to have a way in order to move this hair around. So this is the way you should move Vellum hair around. So first of all, we should grab our hair. In this case is the side hair. You should grab the skin, which of course is this one. And then the animation, which is, where it is this one. So let's move somewhere around here. So far, this is looking quite nice. This is our grooming. This is the advect. That advect just interpolates our guides with our primitive values. Remember the skin prim UV and the skin prim. That's the only thing it's going to use. You can move around or mess around with this. I didn't need to. So if we show and we work with the animation, we will see that this is going to move and follow perfectly our hair. Perfectly. So now we have an animation. We do have our guides moving. So remember, we should always do some modifications before entering into our Vellum simulation. So have a look. In this case, I chose to use this method because we are going to have many grooming states. And in order to have our node graph very tidy, we should not repeat as much as we want to. We can do this, which is an invoke. The invoke basically grabs a compile block. This is a compile block. If we write compile block, this is what we get. It's a way of having paired thread, whatever we want. So what it is to grab the compilant here. This is the whole block basically. And then I chose a name here, input name fix, and I say, hey, do the fix sequence of nodes. So anything you put in here, which is compilable, not every single node is compilable, is going to be repeated here. So what is this node doing? This node is doing the same as if we did this. This is the same. We could of course do an HDA, copy and paste, but I don't want to have an HDA. I don't need it. So let's move inside here and let's see what's going on. So this is our hair, and I'm visualizing with these values, set uniform and calculate uniform. These are the values I chose. We are going to match the animation with the roots. Now we're going to tell you where the root is coming from and nothing else. So first of all, as you can see, the hair in this case is not touching the geometry. You see, it's not touching it. It's a little bit on top of it. And this is because of this node here. You see there is like a slight movement. Basically, when you simulate a hair and you have the collision interpenetrating with the hair, with collision, or a grain interpenetrating with anything, it's going to break at the end. So I discovered that this is really nice, first of all, to resample your guides beforehand. Yes, it's very important to resample your guides beforehand. As you can see, they have a new value of points, because otherwise some hairs are going to, or have the potential of having different point counts. So I want all of them to have the same ratio of points. Secondly, I want to fix that interpenetration with, for example, making the root. The root is going to basically grab every starting point and make it a group root with this vertex prim index. The vertex prim index is going to do the following, guys. I'm going to draw it for you. So we have a line with these points, and each point on each primitive, let's say we have 3 primitives, it's going to be intrinsically represented with a number. This is the 0, this is the 1, this is the 2, this is the 3, this is the 4, this is 0, this is the 1, and so on. And we want to grab all the zeros and group them into a group called root. This is the code. So on the primitive, on the geometric 0, on this primitive number, vertex number, is going to be 0. Every time this is equals to 0, we are going to have a root group. Then we're going to do the polyframe. The polyframe is basically doing a tangent. Let's see, we have the tangent. So let's visualize this. The tangents are the direction of the hair. So as you can see, we can choose, hey, only on the root, subtract the tangent a little bit, and you can multiply it, of course, right? So what I'm doing here is to move this value around so we can move it away from our geometry just a tiny bit, just in order for our collisions to be a little bit better off. Then we grab our Vellum hair. Of course, this is up to scale. This geometry is, I believe, 1.7 meters tall, and these specs are going to work. We only need the side hair, geoside, and the constraints. Remember, you should have the same going on for this one, which is the top. This is the side, and this is the constraint of the sides. And we're going to merge both of these guys. This is the heel side and the heel top, with the con side and the con top. And we're going to plug it into our Vellum solver. And this is going to be our collision. As you can see, in order to also work around with the collision, we're going to pick it a little bit inwards. We need to visualize this like so. As you can see, it's moving a little bit. This is going to work with us on the collision. Perhaps this is a little bit too much. You can always move it a little bit less. I'm going to keep it as usual. You can move this as you please. So when we start this, we can see that this is a simulation and it's working pretty good. I like how it's working. It's colliding. It's doing whatever we want. And we have this guided sim. This guided sim is the animation version of this hair press sim. Moving forwards, nearly the end stage, we have the post-process of the hair. Remember what we did with the hair, with this switch node? Well, we are going to copy and paste it here because we want to have the ability to see if we want to have our guided sim or our hair press sim. Remember, this is the animation and this is the non-animation. So if we want to work, in this case, with the static, we can click here and work with the static. This is going to work either with our hair and with our skin animation or our skin. Remember, these are these two guys, this and this one. And it's also going to work with our BDBs. Remember guys, this is basically all our preparation assets, which are the ones on the top, the static head animation, the skin animation, and our BDB animation. So once we have all these three guys together, we're going to grab our hair and split based on their group. We want the side in this case. And we're going to plug our out skin. We're going to remap a little bit just so we can see. Yeah, there we go. So just so we can see, it was a bug. Basically, if I reload these two guys, it's going to work. So basically, this remap attribute is working on our mask. Remember, we had a mask before. We can work on our side hair. This is our side hair. And this is what we have. Remember, this is the skin. If we ramp these values, we can shrink it, as you can see. And when we work either with our static or either with our animation, let's move a little bit so we can see it better. On our animation, this is going to simulate a little bit. It's going to basically shrink our guides a little bit. So this is working with width of 0.02 and a density of 3 million only on side hair. Look what happens when I'm not using this one. It's basically working everywhere, and I do not want this. Of course, I just want this to be on our side hair. This is the influence radius I'm using, and this is the decay I'm using with create guides and weight attributes. We can move these values a little bit just so you can see what's happening. The smaller it is, the influence radius is only going to be affecting one single guide. I want it to affect different guides, and this is going to basically either smooth it or not. I don't want it to be so smooth, so I remained it like so. We can group and guide the hair and move the hair a little bit, which of course is not going to work because there is no unguided hair. Then we have the guided process. In this case, I chose length, and this is where our BDB starts to being plugged into our layout, and I chose this length. Of course, we can move it a lot more or a lot less. This is going to just be this particular type of length because it's the side hair. It's like my haircut right now. So what I did is to plug in the BDB because this works with a BDB. We cannot see much difference, but later on some nodes are going to work more or less with it. We can of course do some masking if we want, for example, move a little bit with this, but not in this case. So moving on, we had a BDB collision. This is a really useful node. Have a look. I'm going to grab our head. This is the body, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. It's right here. So let's work with our static, I guess, animation. Here we are. We need to move to frame 0. On frame 0, we're going to be on top of our head. This is going to be the render. And this is what I chose to basically modify our guided collide BDB. Went to frame 1. Look what happens when I disable this guide. Some of the parts of the hair are basically being occluded inside our head. Like here, look at this. This is kind of inside. If we go inside the mesh, we can see that there we have these parts of the head which are not working. This is going to push them a little bit outside, which is what the fix I want to have. Of course, we can move this more and more and more, and it's going to do that kind of thing. The hair clamp is a really nice one. We're going to have a blend of some values. In order to visualize, you should visualize the clamp ID. This is the clamp ID. I basically middle mouse click and go to clamp ID. The lesser the size, the more clamps we're going to have. But I chose to have a bigger clamp with a linear blend and a straight rate of 13. As you can see, the straight is basically determining some of the crossovers. For example, this one. This is the crossovers. The more crossovers we have, the more blending we're going to have between our clamps. And then I chose a little clamp so we can have little tiny bits of hair clamped together. Perhaps this is more noticeable with light, but I don't know. And I did the same thing for the other type of hair. This is more interesting. So this is how I started it. Then I did a guided collect, guided collide BDB, because this was even worse than before. Look at this, and I just push it over, and then I did a hair clamp, so we can have a little bit of clamps here and there, as you can see here. This is with extrude and blend, because I first of all wanted to have the length of these guys. Look how they are not pointy. They are not pointy at all unless I do blend equals to 1. This is the clamp size. And this is another clamp, secondary clamp. Remember, this is not set to 1 because I still don't want to have the pointy. And then I did a little bit of resample with a 0.2. These are some of the things I have. And I have a curling here, a little bit of curling with a blending of 1. Of course, we can have less clamping. These are a very nice type of hair, but our curling could be moving like so. Look at this. This is what the curling is doing. It's very interesting. You can have a lot of control here and there. You can move the clamp hair. So you can go forwards again in size. It's very interesting to have. And it's actually very fast. Well, this is obviously not using this geometry. It's using another one. We should see this one instead. There we go. You can see it's working awesome. It's working flawlessly. And I'm going to add a little bit of frizz. As you can see, the frizz doing a little bit of nice motion to our hair. Then at the end of the day, you mix both of these guys together so you can have the final grooming. Look how nice this is looking. And we can file cache everything out with a file cache. This goes to cache, this is the version, this is the frame rate, and you export everything. And this, guys, is how you make Vellum hair with a really easy setup. This is very straightforward. This is the beginning. This is our hair grooming. This is the simulation, and this is the post-process. There's nothing else you should do here. Hi guys, so I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. Please, if you have anything to comment, leave down a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and join the Discord channel where I will be there to help you with whatever you need, along with some other guys. Thank you.